Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw, and today I'm reviewing the brand new album from Avenged Sevenfold entitled Hail to the King. Yes, I do have my computer here to make sure I do not screw up song names, and I'll talk about some of the songs on this album and all that good stuff. So anyways, let's continue on with this review of the upcoming album from Avenged Sevenfold. So, I reviewed the title track Hail to the King when it came out, and I enjoyed that song fairly well. It had some really interesting elements. It had a little bit technical side from Synyster Gates, and the rest of the band did some more simplistic stuff. And overall, I enjoyed the track. It wasn't in your face and crazy like a lot of Avenged Sevenfold songs are, but this song was more pulled back, and so I enjoyed that. But I was excited to see what this album provides besides the simplistic element that was on the title track Hail to the King. And so I've heard the album a good 2 or 3 times, went back to some certain songs to make sure I caught some stuff and all that. And this album is mostly the simplistic side of Avenged Sevenfold. There are some moments on this album that have the crazy side of Avenged Sevenfold, the faster side of Avenged Sevenfold that people do enjoy. But mostly this album is basically not necessarily a step back from their songwriting style, but basically the more simplistic side of the band. It was more of a groovy metal slash just basically simplistic heavy metal route they went on this album. Now, is that going to make some fans kind of weary about like what direction they're going to go on after this album? I don't know, but for me, I enjoyed this album for what it was. I didn't go into this album expecting a very fast Avenged Sevenfold album because of the title track. I went to this album thinking there's going to be some simplistic moments, and there was a lot of that in this album. Now, of course, on the flip side of the simplistic stuff you're going to get on this release, you're also getting some faster, some more technical side of Avenged Sevenfold. But understand, do not go into this album expecting a very fast album, because that's not the case on this at all. What was also interesting, I looked this up, is that this is the first Avenged Sevenfold album without any musical contribution from the band's late drummer, Jimmy the Rev Sullivan. And that was pretty interesting because there's no writing things from him that they used on this album. So this is basically 100% Avenged Sevenfold after the Rev. So we get to see what the band decided to do. And what they decided to do was a more simplistic side, basically simple heavy metal, not too crazy, just simplistic stuff. And that's what we're getting. Now, I want to talk about some of the songs that really stood out to me on this album. Now, I'm not saying these are the best tracks, just some songs that really stood out to me on this album that I just want to talk about a little bit before we get into some more stuff, and then the band, and then we're done. Shepherd of Fire, which opened this album up, was pretty interesting. I like the intro they had going with that. It was really cool. And that track kind of set you up and kind of got me in the mood of what this album was going to be, because right after that, we got the title track, Hail to the King, so those two songs fit together. But Shepherd of Fire, the opener, really got me in the mindset of what the band was trying to accomplish, which is we have the sound of Avenged Sevenfold of this album. They have the sound, but we're not going to go too crazy and technical. We're going to pull it back a little bit and basically just be more relaxed, but still give you the heavy-hitting stuff, but just not as fast and not as aggressive as our past releases. This Means War, which is a pretty lengthy track. It's the first track that goes over 6 minutes long, and right before that we got Doing Time, which is barely under 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which is the shortest track, because the rest of the songs are 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes plus. But back to This Means War, I love the vocals on that, man. It just sounded amazing. M Shadows just was an amazing contribution to that track. I really enjoyed his vocal style and the way he did the chorus. I really enjoyed how that came about. The music, some of the musical moments was pretty cool, but overall I thought it was a good track, but the vocals on that was just really intense. Sorry about that. And I really enjoyed what M Shadows did for that. Requiem was pretty interesting. That opened up with what sounded like an operatic, some opera people, basically just a choir of people. That was pretty interesting to listen to. Crimson Day was a very good track. Coming Home was a pretty cool track as well. I liked the guitar solo, and then I liked some of the guitar work through that track as well. Acid Rain, that's the one track I wanted to get to so bad before I talk about anything else, because when I saw that as the final track of the album, Acid Rain, I did not expect what the actual song is. What I expected reading that title track before I got to it was, that's going to be a heavy-hitting track. It's going to basically close the album in a big bang, right? And it did the opposite. That track was so simple and so slow and melodic. It wasn't like the rest of the album, or basically most of this album, where it's simplistic and heavy-hitting and heavy crunchy guitars. what we got was piano, some orchestra moments, and basically we got a very simplistic and melodic track that really closed this album in a very different way than I expected, because the opener of this album was kind of a heavy cruncher and kind of heavy, but the closer, Acid Rain, did the complete opposite. I love the track, don't get me wrong, it was just a different way that they were going to go, and I just did not expect that as a closer, but it was a beautiful track, and it really just ended this album on a different note than I thought they were going to do. So anyways, let's go off into the sound of the band, and we'll talk about some of the production of that as well as we talk about the band members. So anyways, M Shadows on lead vocals, and he did lead guitar on St. James. That's what it says on my sheet. Oh, okay. It's a deluxe version bonus track. I did not hear that, unfortunately. But anyway, so let's talk about M Shadows on vocals. So his vocal style, his rawness, his highs, his lows are all still good. They're all still great on this album. I enjoyed his vocal style. I enjoyed some of the way that he pronounced his words, some of the way he did the vocal arrangements for Hail to the King and This Means War. Of course, Acid Rain, it was a beautiful track. A lot of great stuff there. So his vocal style and his range and basically his lyrical content is all great. It's still, there's nothing, getting like lowered or anything that's like, well, he's lacking in this a little bit. I think all of it was really great, a great thing from M Shadows. He did great on this album. Let's go off into rhythm guitar from Zacky Vengeance. Rhythm guitar was pretty, was more of a simplistic, but also I liked the guitar tone. It was really heavy, it was crunchy, and the moments where it was like really heavy, it was really heavy. And the times where it's pulled back and not really low on the guitar frets, but kind of high up. I enjoyed the tone they went with, and I enjoyed the rhythm section from Zacky, so I enjoyed that as well. Synyster Gates on lead guitar. Lead guitar, man, like that. The lead guitar from Synyster Gates is just insane. I always enjoy his solo work, whether it be hectic and crazy and technical and all over the place, or the simplistic side, which we get to see both of that on this album now. Now, do not expect like a guitar solo from Synyster Gates is like the most technical he's ever done. That's not the case, since the fact that the rest of the band is kind of, we're trying to pull back on the songwriting. Synyster Gates is not going to come out after 2 or 3 minutes of simplistic heavy metal with a guitar solo that will blow your face off. That's not the case. But there are some technical guitar solos from Synyster Gates and simplistic, but understand that the variety of both of these simplistic and technical are going to go together, and you're not going to get too much technical but not too much simplistic, so just understand that's what's happening. But I enjoyed his guitar solo work. I've always enjoyed his guitar solo work. He's always a very good soloist, and I enjoyed what he did on this album. Johnny Christ on bass guitar. The bass guitar was turned up on this album. Now, I wish there was more moments where Johnny did some more interesting things, like where he stood out more, played something different than the guitars were doing. But overall, looking at the bigger picture of this album, that I think he did a very good job. The bass guitar had a really good tone. It was deep and basically a lot of bass. So it was really heavy, so I have no problems there, but I really wish there was a little bit more moments where his bass guitar stood out and did some more interesting things. But overall, looking at this whole entire album, he did good. So let's go to Arin on drums. Now, I'm hoping that I'm saying his name right. I'm pretty sure I've seen a live show where M Shadows said his name Arin, so I'm going to go with his name's Arin. That's the way they pronounce it. But the drum work is not exactly technical and crazy like I thought it was going to be after, going into this album thinking, well, there's some simplistic stuff, maybe some crazy drum parts, maybe. But overall, the drumming is what you'd expect from the rest of the album, which I've basically been saying is that it's a more simplistic, pulled back Avenged Sevenfold. Not too crazy, not too in your face, like, listen to this crazy, hectic stuff. The drumming is pulled back because the rest of the band is. I feel like that if the drumming was overly technical and overly crazy, like, some of us would like to see if Arin can pull off these really interesting stuff, which he has, but if the drumming was hectic and crazy and in your face, then it would not match the song. So when we get all the rest of the band being more simplistic, not too crazy, no technical, just more of the, we're not going to go way too fast, the drums have to follow that. And with that happening, that the drums are not overly crazy. Now, is the drumming good from Arin? Yes. Is his drumming technical and crazy all over the place? No. The thing is, you got to understand, that's the way the band wanted to go, and in order for this album to work, the drumming had to be pulled back as well. Now, obviously, I wish there was more hectic and more crazy stuff on this album, but what I got was a Avenged Sevenfold album that had some simplistic stuff, had some crazy moments, some little bit faster moments. But overall, we got a very heavy Avenged Sevenfold album. And I think Arin did a very good job with it. Now, if we're going to see a very fast and a very aggressive album from Avenged Sevenfold down the road, we don't know. There's no telling. But if we do, I bet Arin will do a very good job with that. But on this album, with what the band was giving to him with the riffs and the song structures, I think he did a very good job with keeping up with the band and able to create some really interesting drum parts with what he was able to do with the rest of the songs. Overall, this is a very good sounding Avenged Sevenfold album. I think it's going to be an album that's not going to be loved by everybody, but I don't think it's going to be hated by a lot of people. I think that a lot of Avenged Sevenfold fans, as myself, I'm assuming, will enjoy this album and take this album as what it is. It's a very good Avenged Sevenfold album. It's got some great songs, got some great moments, got some great guitar solos, great melodies, great vocal parts, and overall a great put together album from the band. So I have no real issues with this album, particularly like to say like, oh well, this is a problem, this is a problem, and this is a problem. I think that this is a good album for what it is. It's Avenged Sevenfold. It's got some pretty heavy stuff. It's got some technical moments, but overall, it's got that simplistic side of the band, and I enjoy it. So overall, I think this is a good album, and I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10. It's a very good album, and I think fans will enjoy this. Now, obviously, if you think different, comment down below and let me know. Anyways, guys, that's the review. 8 out of 10. Good album. Hail to the King. Get a thumbs up for me. So anyways, guys, if you liked the video, like the video. And if you like me and you want to see more, subscribe or click on my channel to see more of my stuff. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.